In truth, you're gonna fucking fail. Like, no joke. Like, it's gonna be really detrimental, dude. It's gonna suck. It's gonna be really, really bad. That's okay. That's okay, honestly, because what is failure but, you know, another way to say that you're learning? I failed yesterday, on a couple things. But hey, I'm here. I'm filming a video on a Thursday, no less. Although this will be posted on a Friday, but I'll be busy tomorrow. I know not to keep my fans waiting. Ain't that right, AP? So, but you're gonna fail. You know, I was really debating on this video being talking about uh that you don't really want that big titty alt Latina GF. Maybe that's a different video topic. You don't really want her, but I think failing was much more of a more important topic that we should discuss. That's you know I can you know talk about because failure's been a revolving topic around a lot of the videos I've made, at least from my what I think my videos are about. And school can be really rough, especially when you're surrounded by the grading system of. I don't like how the systems are. I wish we could be tested differently. You know, it was really interesting. I had a grading contract for my summer English class. Like if you did the labor, you would pass. And I did do the labor, and I felt like I learned a lot more than I would in than like the hard set rules you would have in like other classes. And I don't know, I when it comes to dreams is like I want to become an artist. I don't know if I've said that here, but now I have in my sketchbook right there, mixed media with like what the Master's Touch Fine Art Studio by Fabriano. Like Italian. Like Italian. Used to be like 50% off at like the Hobby Lobby for like 3 years, but then they just took it off. They just like when I needed another sketchbook, of course, you know, and unintended things are gonna happen. You're gonna fail. I'm gonna fail. I'm saying this now with complete honesty, and I will, but I have to get up because I cannot see a world where I don't make art. You know, even right now, the reason why I'm making this video is because I have to write an art critique later. Like the plan is to like make this video, do some meditation, journal, because I'm tired. Like you're gonna be tired. You're gonna be tired. I woke up like at 3 a.m. because I work really early. Like a 8 hour shift like 5 a.m. So and I live far away. You know, and sometimes I don't wake up. I'm not joking. I don't wake up and I don't go to work on time, and I don't go to school. Of course, those don't happen a lot, but I can't really beat myself up about it because they're usually because I didn't get sleep or like I was sick. You can't control your sickness, and and you can't really blame yourself for not getting sleep. That's usually due to other deeper things. I wasn't scrolling on the TikToks, that's for sure. But truth is, I can't take out that inevitability. You can't take that inevitability, but what you can do is realize that and supersede it. Like of course, when it comes to creativity, you can manifest it. And and I'm not gonna spit all this jargon unless you guys are interested, but you know, you have to think about as if you already have it. You have to visualize it, you have to perceive it as if you've already hit your goals. And I won't lie, it feels good. I'm working hard and just to imagine that I've even reached that semblance of what I really want. And I don't know what I really want exactly, you know, but it feels good. And I feel like you guys would learn from that, in all honesty. It takes time. Like I hate time. It's just like really just the bane of all things, but it's really your best friend. Time is really your best friend because I say I have this saying for myself, and all things will eventually end, and you don't know how much I use that when I really want to get out of my shift at my job, dude. It's such a positive thing like that. This terrible amount of labor will eventually end, and be able to go home, and eventually all your pain and suffering will eventually end, you know, and eventually you'll feel peace. Like that's what everybody really wants. That's what I feel everybody thinks they want instead of happiness, because you can't feel happiness all the time. If you feel happiness all the time, then that can be really tiring, I guess. We're being really theoretical here. I don't know what it's like to be happy all the time. I don't know if you guys know what it's like to be happy all the time. But, I feel like if I felt peace all the time, being in a calm demeanor, I'd be able to like coast a little bit better. It's really hard living in the 21st century, especially if you live on Earth. Not like not in any specific place. If you live on Earth, it's just really hard. And specific places on Earth, even harder. You know, it's we are privileged to even fail. In all honesty, not a lot of people get these chances. Not a lot of people are able to pursue art. I want to pursue art, and I had to fight for that. I'm using my own money. I wish I was using other people's money, like the government's, but I digress. And but I'm not. I don't face hard times. I don't face hardships as much as others. I'm privileged to have a caring family that they somewhat want me to succeed. You know, I'm privileged to go to school. I'm privileged to go to work. And we're privileged to fail. You know, we're privileged to fail. In all honesty, uh, I was watching a movie about Vincent Van Gogh. I love Vincent Van Gogh. I love that guy. Growing up, I always joke like, "Oh, he's a loser." Blah blah blah. It's because I always saw myself in him. I always saw myself in Vincent Van Gogh as an artist who's faced issues with mental health and all, and you see how dedicated he was to his craft, despite how you know creatively genius, like how much of a creative genius he was, and he never really sold anything. He never really sold anything. It really does put into perspective you know what failure is, what we think is failure. You know, Vincent always felt like he was a burden to his brother because he never sold anything, and his brother always provided for him. You know, but he was able to create these meaningful pieces of art that people are still, you know, hold emotional ties to. That I hold emotional ties to his work. It's like it depends what your definition of failure is. Maybe that's what we need to work on. You know, it's not hard set. You're gonna be killed. It does feel like that sometimes. I'm not joking. Especially when it comes towards anything in general, it can feel like that. But it's not. Maybe it's the definition we need to change. Maybe failure is really winning for the future, for future you, really. And because you learn, you grow, you progress, and then you try again, and you try again, and you try again. I didn't know how to drive for years. I almost failed my driving test, but with each failure of almost crashing, I became a relatively safe driver because I don't want to crash anymore. I don't want to cause harm to others because I didn't, you know, check to my left, check to my right. I that seems like simple things, but you gotta imagine what it is to like a crippling anxiety 17-year-old who is like, I don't want to drive a 3,000-pound vehicle that can go up to 100 miles per hour on the freeway, and I also have to. Let's We're getting too specific here. You know, we're gonna try, we're gonna fail, and failure is okay. And it depends what our definition of failure is. And some people's failures is actually monumentally succeeding, if that's the right word to say. You look at Vincent van Gogh's paintings and how popular they are now. But you might be able to see success in your lifetime. You know? Even then, you wouldn't really worry about your past failings once you're dead. But you don't have to worry about your past failings right now. And I think that's what matters. Rewrite your history, forgive your failings. Peace out.